This is just a quick video to get you started with the semester project for Geography ATMO 321 Climate and Climate Change. First, you will go to the website that is linked in the document for the project. It's Climate Explorer from the World Meteorological Organization. And you will, let's see, on the right-hand side, you'll see monthly station data here. So you want to click that. We are looking for this GHCNM adjusted mean temperature here. So you'll click this button. You're going to want to click this icon too for information. It's going to give you information about what this data set actually is and where it comes from. That's information that you'll need when you're doing your final write-up. Then you will come here to select stations, and I've given you some coordinates in the document. I'm not going to use those right now because I want you to do that on your own. So I am putting in the coordinates for Austin, Texas, which is my hometown. Right, so you put those in here and then click Get Stations. That is not right. But that's right, you need to put the negative here. There we go. So then once you are in here, you're going to look for this. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, but that's the station that you want, which is in Greenland. So once you find that in this list, you'll click Get Data. You'll see some plots here that give you an idea of what the data is like. Then up in here in this text, you'll see these links and you want to click on Raw Data, and it's going to pull up this text file. Actually, it's a DAT file, but you are going to copy out this data and paste it into an Excel document. So you don't need any of this here. This is what's known as metadata, which is data about your data. So it's important information and something that you might want to keep track of, but it's not something that you want to copy and paste into your Excel document. You just want this stuff down here. So you are going to highlight all of this, and so if you see here, there's a space. If you can, make sure and include that space. It's just going to help you out. You don't want to do it like this. You see then there's a gap here. Your data won't get entered exactly right in Excel. So make sure and get that space, come all the way to the bottom, and then depending on your machine, you either Command C or Control C, or you can right click and copy. Come into Excel and then paste. And so you can see here that actually all of these data points are in this first cell. They're not split into columns. So you can see here, and that's not how we want this data formatted. We want each of these data points to be in a separate column. So what you want to do is make sure you don't have any of that highlighted. Come up here to, let's see, data, text to columns. Maybe we do want that, everything highlighted. Text, oh no, I guess, sorry, you just want the one column highlighted. All right, so highlight your column, text to columns. We want delimited, which means our columns, our separate columns are marked by some kind of character, in this case a space. A lot of times it's a comma, which is known as a CSV file. So click Next, and then for the delimiter we want a space. And so you can now see down here this is a preview of your data, you can see that it has been separated into the proper columns. Click Next, and then Finish, and it has split everything into columns for us. You can go ahead and delete that because we don't need it. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is make this more of a usable spreadsheet. So go ahead and insert a column here. So what I did was right-clicked, insert, and then we just want some headings here. So we've got year, and then these are the months, starting with January. So January, February, March, April, May. That way we know what our data is representing. So you can see here for the year 1948, this is the mean temperature for January, February, March, June, etc. This is degrees Celsius, obviously. So another thing that you're going to need to do is, if you'll notice, there are these values, negative 999.9. So that is just impossibly cold. That is not a real value. This is what's known as a missing value. It's been coded with that negative 99.9 as an indicator. And so we want to get rid of all these numbers, because what we're going to end up doing is taking, yearly averages and things like that, seasonal averages. And so if you take an average of these numbers and this negative 99 is in there, it's really going to muck things up. So what you want to do is find and replace all of those with spaces. So if you come up here to Find and Select, this is under the Home tab, click down, and then you want this Replace. And so you want to find all of the negative 999.9s, and then you want to replace it with a blank. So you can just leave this blank because that's what you want to replace it with. If you wanted to replace it with, a W or something like that, which doesn't do us any good, but if you wanted to, this is where you would put it. So then you can just click Replace All. Tells you how many replacements were made. Click OK, close. And so now you can see all of these blanks in the document. But those blanks don't do us that much good either, because when we're taking yearly and seasonal averages, we still want to be able to account for those kinds of seasonal fluctuations. So what we're going to do is impute some data. Impute just kind of means put in some kind of representative value for a missing value. In this case, we are going to use a moving average. So what we're going to do is for each of these missing values, so in this case we have August of 1996 is missing. So what we're going to do is replace this blank with the average August temperature for the 5 years before and the 5 years after. So that's going to give us just kind of a really average value for August, and we'll use that for this year. And so to do that, you're going to enter a formula. I've given that to you in the PDF document. So what you're going to do is say equals, which is what tells Excel that you are entering a formula. And you see it should come up with it in a drop-down menu here, so you can just click on that. You see it opens a parenthesis, and so this is now where you will highlight these. You can just click and drag, and so you can see it says 5R by 1C. That means 5 rows by 1 column, and then comma, because you're going to have another series, and then you have your 5 here. So this is going to give you the average of the previous 5 years and the following the latter 5 years. Hit enter. You can see it gives you that value here. And so a little trick is that you can actually copy this, and then if you paste special formulas, it should update so that it is using the cells relative to the new one. So you see it when we pasted that formula here, it updated to show the 5 years surrounding. When I was doing that, I did, so let's paste it here. Maybe you have to. I did get this error here that there are circular references. And what that is saying is that when you're trying to calculate this value, it's using this cell, and the calculation in this cell is using this cell, so they're referencing each other. And so that can be problematic in some situations, but in our case, it doesn't matter. So you can actually change that in your preferences, or if you're on a PC, I think it should be somewhere over here. You should have something called settings, probably in one of these headers. And then let's see, where was that? Oh, then you come into calculation. And if you click this use iterative calculation, then you won't get that error anymore. And so you can actually highlight a bunch of cells. I don't know why it does that sometimes, but you may have to copy again, highlight a bunch of cells, paste the formula. And so for each one of these, it contains the right 5 cells. But so you want to do that for all of the empty spaces, or the blank, the missing values, so that you do not have any more missing values. And so then what you're going to want to do is calculate the average temperature for each month. So each one of these columns is a month. So to do that, down here, you'll take the average of each column. So equals average, and then you just drag up so that you have all of these values, hit enter. Looks good. You can actually just drag to the right then, and each one of those should now have the average of each column like you want. You are going to do an annual average, so you want to label that. And so that is going to be the average for each row, because annual just means year, right? You want the yearly average. Oops. There we go. And so another trick, you can actually, all right, that's not going to work, never mind. There we go. So you drag that down so it has all of the rows. I'm not going to be doing this row here because you can see it, is incomplete. And then you're going to do an average for the summer and for the winter. So you can see the summer average will be June, July, and August. The winter is December, January, and February. So I'm just going to do one of those right here. I'll do the summer average. And so again, equals average. And then you just want June, July, and August. So again, you can drag that down. I know I still have missing values here. You should not. So there you go. And then you'll do one for the winter as well. Creates a 10-year moving average for each of these, including the winter, which I have not done. But so just one example. And so what I did is inserted columns so that next to the annual average, you have the 10-year, next to the summer, you have the summer 10-year, etc. So we'll label this annual 10-year average. And so what this is kind of the same thing that we did here. It's going to be the moving average on either side. So we won't be able to start until this year because we need 5 years behind and 5 years in front. So moving average just smooths over the data. So instead of kind of a jagged line, it just provides a smooth line. I'm sure you've seen graphs of moving averages with COVID data. They usually have the, weekly moving average or monthly moving average. So again, it's just equals average and then the 5 previous years and the subsequent 5 years, enter. And then you can actually just double click this corner here because it's directly next to this column, and it'll fill that all the way down to the end of the data set. So these numbers are your 10-year moving average. For the annual average, like I said, you'll do that for the summer as well as for the winter. You're also going to make a series of charts. I think there are 4 of them. And so they're all similar in the sense that each one is going to display 2 data series. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So what you want to do is first highlight what is going to be your x-axis. So in the case of this first graph or chart, whatever you want to call it, it is going to be the months. So you would highlight these values here. In the case of these down here where you're doing it by year, it would be these years. But so highlight your x-axis, and then depending on whether or not you're on a Mac or a PC, you'll hit Control or Command to let you highlight another data series. So for this number 4, you are going to show data for 2018 as well as the overall averages for the months. So you have all 3 of those highlighted. Then you'll come to Insert, and you have your charts here. And so here you want a line chart. Line chart. And so you can see, boom, it has added both of our data series along with our months, and these are the temperatures in Celsius. So a couple things we need to do to make this look better. These series, we need to give them proper names. So, let's see. Okay, so I think we need to do this. You just highlight your entire chart, and then here, select data. You're able to give things names. So our series 1 was this 2018, and you can see that here because it shows you which data that is. And so this is the 2018 monthly mean temperature. And our series 2 is the mean, or I guess we should say, in this it was 2048 to 2018. Your data is going to be different. Mean monthly mean temperature. And so that means it is the mean of all of these monthly means. Say OK, and you can see that's been changed down here. And so you may also want to change these values. The bounds, you can see we don't really need to go down this far because our data only goes from about 10 to 35. So we could make our minimum value 5. And that looks pretty good. So you also are going to want to give it an informative title. So let's say monthly mean temperature. And then you also are going to want to add, so up here in Add Chart Element, so you can see we're under the Chart Design tab. We want some axis titles. So primary horizontal. We've got month of year. And then you want to make sure, and here, say temperature in degrees Celsius. All right, and that looks pretty good. And so you can also, change your colors if you want in here. Just make sure that you can really see the difference. Like this is not really that great because it's kind of hard to see the difference in between, but something like this is a lot better. There's a lot more contrast. Although you should be aware, a lot of people have color blindness, red-green color blindness being primary. So someone who is colorblind might not be able to see the difference between these. So it's always best to avoid those colors. There you go. And so the other charts will be similar except with different data series. And then you are going to include all of those charts in your write-up. Your write-up follows the format of a scientific article in a peer-reviewed journal. So you'll have introduction, methods, results, discussion, and a conclusion. And so there are lots of resources online. I've linked to a couple of those in the document itself. There's some guiding questions there. Please let me know if you have any more questions. I'll also open a forum, a discussion forum on Blackboard. You can post questions there. And good luck. Have fun.